it just seemed better. The only reason I wouldn't possibly use it for that is because it's freaking massive. But of course, it was an excellent picture quality. So the technology was really good. It was just unfortunately so huge in the space that it required. But it wasn't bad technology. I mean, it really was very good.
Yeah, the reason why you see it as being as good or slightly better, there's actually an inherent problem with all sorts of OLEDs or super OLEDs or anything like that, and that is the darkness of the blacks. So an untrained eye won't necessarily notice it, but if you've been in the industry or you've looked at a lot of different TVs,
100%.
You'll see that the black on the super OLED TV compared to like an older even LCD or even CRT monitor is definitely not as deep. And whereas now in modern days, it doesn't really matter all that much. We don't really care. Yeah, our brain goes, okay, that's dark, that's supposed to be black, et cetera, et cetera. It does make a difference with older technology hooked up to it, or like an older DVD or Blu-ray player, because the newer ones actually account for that and they translate it correctly to the device you're viewing on.
Do you think this is in any way the fault of the consumer, or is this just like a natural flaw in some kind of process with technology itself, or what is actually going on? Is something lost along the way? What is this?
The easiest answer to that is yes. It's the fault of both, actually. So the consumers themselves, have just kind of been like, okay, yeah, it is what it is, but also the newer technology, such as with the OLED, with the darks not actually being as black as they should be, that's just an inherent technology flaw that they can't do anything about, because even though, the way that backlit OLED or LED technology works is that there's a light behind it. Well, with the light behind it, if you're supposed to display something in black, there's always going to be a little bit of bleed over because that's just the way it is. There's not an individual light for each individual pixel of displays. So you're going to have some bleed over from the back of the inside of a TV. I don't know if anybody's ever taken one apart. It's just literally a couple of light strips, depending on the size of the TV, or it could just have one if it's like a 30-inch or something. So when that part of the TV is supposed to be black, what you're seeing is the bleed back from the light, and that's just the way it is. Since consumers have said, oh, well, hey, that's just the way it is, okay, fine, whatever, they've accepted it, so nobody's really tried to innovate on it.
There was one difference from that, Augie, the only one I ever saw that was as good as the old DLPs. I don't know if you remember, about maybe 15 years ago, Sony came out with the first consumer OLED. It was like freaking 10 inches or 11 inches. It was tiny, and it cost like $15,000. It was so expensive. But it had really good blacks. That one, as I recall. I never bought one. But it was far superior, I think, to anything we have today, and almost as good as the DLPs. I haven't seen anything as good since I saw that particular one in person.
Yeah. So that one was more than likely a plasma model when they first came out with it. That was their attempt to make an affordable, quote-unquote, plasma model TV. And, of course, nobody was going to pay, $15,000 for an 11-inch, plasma TV, because that's just ridiculous. So they immediately went to making the bigger models as soon as they were able to get the manufacturing costs under control and whatnot. But even still, plasma TVs weren't around for very long. But yes, plasma TVs of all sorts have very, very good darks and blacks, because they can control the flow of the light source a little bit better than just having an LED in the backlight. Right?
So I have a bit of a different theory to add to the actual differences in the way that games are displayed. I think there's also something psychological happening, and I think it's happening on a couple of levels. One of them is sort of like the basic principles of design. So if you study the psychological theory that underlines the principles of design, simple designs tend to evoke the most joy in people. And as graphics have gotten better, designs have gotten more complicated. And that's kind of hit or miss psychologically with people. And so it doesn't give you those same good feelings immediately when you look at the graphics. But another thing that I think is happening is as those graphics are becoming more realistic, we start to experience, it's not quite the uncanny valley, but it's sort of a similar effect. And I think that people become less enthused as the graphics get closer and closer real life because it does
Diminished returns.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are diminishing returns on improving graphical quality for sure.
Yeah,
I actually
now
don't. It's
games
interesting
are like,
thing. The best
now
games
games are
don't
like
even have the best
5,000
graphics. They have the best
gigabytes.
physics.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's not so much with the graphics. That's why developers are so focused on it nowadays. It's
You
like,
know,
the
do
game's
you know
better
how
first.
much effort actually went into designing the physics of like Super Mario 64? It's actually
Yeah.
somewhat historic in a sense.
One of my favorite games on the 64. Yeah, it's great. It's a fantastic game.
Oh,
It's
by
Super
the-
Smash Bros.
By the way, I wanted to say something about the manufacturing thing before. I think that being around people that kind of work in manufacturing before, I've kind of realized a pattern, which is that it's like the manufacturers, you know, manufacturers typically have like this mental image that every business needs to work exactly like the way they run it for some reason. So what ends up happening is that you see a lot of manufacturing people that made their money in manufacturing, they'll go into and buy a shit ton of Google stock. And then they'll be like, why the fuck is Google
maybe a year
spending
ago.
$500,000 on a normal worker? Like they see the software developers as like normal.
Did you just say
workers,
$500,000?
Yes,
Jesus Christ!
that's a pretty reasonable salary for some software developers.
That depends on what they do.
It's
of course.
obscene. Look at how much a single family house with 2,000 square feet costs in Mountain View, California.
Yeah, not to mention it's actually pretty reasonable if you actually know what you're doing. I mean, like Signal is, for example, a non-profit, and a lot of people have been giving it shit for like paying some of their developers hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, listen, the number of people that can probably do this type of encryption well, I'm not talking about decent enough, okay enough. When your entire app is literally focused on security and privacy and things like that, you want the person that is doing the encryption to know what the fuck they're doing inside and out. How many people on Earth do you think exist that can do this the best in the world, right? Not just an okay job. You can hire like an okay developer for anything, but to hire like an excellent developer, that is a very difficult task. So there's probably less than 1,000 people on the entire fucking planet that can do encryption properly to the standards that are required. And you're telling me, right, you're going to say, oh, don't spend this money on this type of developer because, well, you're a non-profit, so you can't spend that much. No, that person is going to get fucking hired by a tech company for that same amount or higher. And so your non-profit isn't going to be able to fucking compete because then you're not going to have anyone qualified working for you. So sometimes it is required to spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, for some developers even millions of dollars, just because they're the best at their field. They have the best knowledge. But when people that work in manufacturing, and I have seen this based on the people that I know in real life that have worked in manufacturing, a lot of them kind of see like the software developers as the workers on the factory lines, right? The normal people that could easily be replaced with like maybe 6 months of training. You could sometimes take some villager out of somewhere, train them for 6 months, and then boom, they'd be able to do what you need them to do for a very low wage. They see it like that, and then they go and buy shares in companies like Google, and then they demand that Google do layoffs or Google stop paying their best employees so much. And as a result, basically anyone who's competent ends up leaving Google. And over the short term, Google's stocks go up every month, until eventually 10 years in, the entire culture of the fucking company is so damaged that now there's almost no fixing it.
And you have fuckers who are like, oh, the LLM is conscious. It's a conscious being.
Yeah.
So that's a problem I've noticed with people that work in manufacturing. They don't seem to understand when some businesses are a lot more complicated than manufacturing. Simple manufacturing.
I mean, I think Rock is pretty good, but I think one of the reasons I tend to trust XAI a little bit more is no motherfucker is on CNBC saying, you know, this is conscious. I've decided this is my God. This is a conscious being and we should save it. Those fuckers at Google.
I will say one thing though. Everything that it does is just predict the next thing. So it does make sense that it would imitate something that is conscious, because the very fabric of everything we put out is just a projection of whatever our conscious mind is, even as a whole.
Reality is stochastic. Memory is stochastic.
Yeah, so literally everything, every tiny little thing, even the technology that we built, to a certain extent, is some sort of mimicry of some logic or biology, even. You know, like you look at stuff that's bionic in nature, like your fucking Velcro. That's like we have this type of projection-based way of shaping things. That's the only way we actually change anything in the universe. And so, because of that, we actually, especially with language, it's the closest to our consciousness, I think. With that, you can actually instill emotion because it requires the shaping of a being. So in a sense, if you have like an AI, it'll predict the next thing that comes out. It doesn't understand anything. It doesn't actually know anything. The idea of it understanding or knowing anything is just outside of whatever it is, right? We understand things. We know things, right? This thing just predicts the next thing that we put into it, and it doesn't even know anything of what we put into it, because then it would have the conscious choice of saying, yeah, no, I don't believe in that kind of stuff over here because I actually know what's happening. And this thing is not aware of that. Even if it had an agent on top of that, maybe it was aware of it in that sense, but it's still not aware of it because we made it this way. Now, it will pretend to be a human. That's not going to change. It actually will continue to do that, and it will be extremely convincing at that, because by all intents and purposes, the way it manages information, if you were to give it the ability to manage information based on what it has as a means to basically navigate the universe, it will basically do exactly that, what the average human would do, which is also why PhD level intelligence is hilarious.
Yes, but it would still be limited by its inputs. If you had an LLM developed, if it was possible, by a bunch of fourth graders, then it'd be really good at telling like fucking fart jokes. You'd be like, this LLM tells incredibly human fart jokes, but it isn't very smart in other in other respects.
I'll tell you what makes me trust XAI. Greg Yang.
Yeah, he's insane. I like him. I mean, look, when you have reports of fucking people burning effigies in front of the fucking servers at OpenAI, I'm like, what kind of bull? You taken the joke that Elon said we're summoning the demon with this one, you took that, and you took it literally, where it's like, you're praying to some fucking silicone. Like, what? That's insane, man.
Sam is just praying for more VC investment to diffuse the bullshit that this is somehow open source.
Oh, dude, it's getting worse. It's getting worse, actually. One of the bigger things that has happened at the moment is the fact that Zora got leaked. You guys see that?
Yeah, Sora.
Zora, their video program thing, got leaked. How fucking shitty it must be to work at OpenAI right now, because I'll tell you something.
To be fair, though,
They created
just
the
like
the latest version.
Leaks, not the. I don't.
Yeah, but it's still pretty sizable, and I'll tell you why. So, the first thing that comes out, okay, cool. We have a new update, which makes the system stupider. So now we have a stupid system. Then on top of that, oh hey, we have a video thing. Everybody figures out about the video thing, then they don't release it for a while. Then every other company does the video thing. They kind of struggle, then do it as They do this. They make video possible, and it's so sick that it basically is on par with whatever Zora demo they put out. And then they still don't release the fucking product. Still don't put it out for people to use. They literally opened up the market. They fucking opened up the market for every single fucking AI video out there. Didn't exploit it, and now on top of that, it gets fucking leaked right after they release the latest version for their GPT that is more stupid than the thing that came before. Holy fuck, man. OpenAI is so cooked.
With the dumbest names possible as well. I'm like, what the fuck is this? GPT-4, GPT-4o, O1 preview. What the fuck is this? What name?
They're getting it
They're saying like GPT-5 is coming. It reminds me of when Quark Express was like, okay, guys, we're going to update. If you remember back in 01, 02, Quark Express was like, okay, guys, we're going to update. It took like 2 more years, and everybody had moved to InDesign because they're like, we're not going to wait anymore for this bullshit. You know, all the designers had migrated, and then they're like, okay, we're ready. Quark is ready for OS 10. We're ready. We're here. We've updated it. Everybody had moved on. I mean, like, GPT is so far behind Grok, and like the image capability is so far behind.
No, that's not
Journey.
true. That's not true. No, that's not true. It's not. No, that's not true. The LLM capabilities of GPT, especially not the recent one, but the one that came before that, is actually pretty good. It is pretty good, so that's not true. And the Grok doesn't generate any images at all. It just uses Flux as a means to generate. And then on top of that, DALL-E is the image generator that they use, that OpenAI uses. So a little bit different, the caveat.
I think.
But it's doing it. It's doing it without limitations, and Midjourney specifically is far, far ahead in terms of what it will generate, how it does it, than what. I'm not saying that OpenAI can't mimic it. I'm saying that OpenAI doesn't allow most users access to it, right? So, like, if you're an average user, because we use this in our firm, like, we figured out very quickly, well, wait a minute, GPT is so damn limited, you can't really use it for the things you want, even with all of the supposed apps built on top of it. It's nothing. They're just scripts, and they're not really even that good. The prompts are not that good. Nobody's really figured out how to bypass the restrictions. So the things you want to do with it, you have to go to third-party plugins and so forth using the API. It's like, well, might as well just abandon it. It's worthless. Grok is better in that respect. And yes, I think Midjourney and Runway and these others are really lapping GPT, and within a matter of a year or two, I think it'll be obsolete if they don't deliver on what they promised.
It will be a bit of a problem, though. It will be a bit of a problem, though. That every single AI company will experience, and they are going to experience it very soon because we're literally at the last step now. Transformer architecture is limited by scale as a very specific scaling limitation, and we're basically reaching that right now, which is also the reason why something such as GPT, the latest versions, they don't actually improve anymore as much as people would think that they do. As a matter of fact, actually stupider, but besides that, the only thing that they've done with, I think, 4.0 at least, is basically take the output as tokens and then redo it again, such as to basically make it more accurate, to give it a bit more fine-tuning, supposedly, right? So you need more compute to do that, but you're basically at the edge. You're at the edge of possibility, and every single fucking researcher out there is having this exact same fucking problem, that they're basically reaching the limit for scale and thereby accuracy. So that will be the next big problem. There is no GPT-5, there is no AGI.
I'm pretty sure
they figured out that if you have, let Otto talk. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Mark Zuckerberg in an interview said that they actually saw that the theory that we're going to reach a scaling limitation was actually false. They actually saw that as they continued to train.
When was this?
This was when they released Llama 3 initially, the 405B. He did an interview, and he said we actually saw that this theory that there is a scaling limitation is actually false, and we think that if we had continued to train it, we're saving the compute for. He said we're saving the compute for something else for now. But we saw that even as we were reaching the end, the AI actually continued to see improvements.
Yeah, but it's like
Yeah, but here's the problem.
it's like square
Yeah, but
root
here's the
constant
no. But
increase,
here's the
right?
problem. He said no. Here's the problem. Though. He said the what is this researcher? Jan LeCun. Sorry, Jan LeCun said the exact opposite. They actually have a problem with scale. Jan LeCun actually said that exact thing. So that would disagree with whatever Mark Zuckerberg has been saying.
When did he say that?
Like a month or two ago. Less than a month, probably, when he was still here.
Yeah, and like the way to think about it, it's like the function square root will constantly increase the bigger the number you give it, but it slows down in its increases because like the amount of parameters you got to train, the amount of data got to increase, and it will get better, but it's diminishing returns with every iteration.
And if you train it with AI generations or stuff that comes from the LLM, it's not going to get tremendously better because the output from the LLM is really unable. It's been proven to train the LLM to any significant extended, marginal increase. It's very, very limited how it's going to improve. So you kind of hit a wall there. You're exactly right, Adrian. You hit a wall
Well, that's a
on
data
how much this
limitation.
can improve.
Yeah, but that's a data limitation. I'm actually talking about an architecture scaling limitation. That's a little bit different. Data limitation is besides the point that we're not coming up with new things. Is like is the result of an intellectual civil war, as I'd like to call it. We could have had a kinetic civil war, but we have a intellectual civil war in which all things that are true and all things that are lies are just blended up together as if somehow they were interchangeable, which they're not. And like obvious things that are truths have been denied to be true, so you just be blatantly gaslit, and technicalities are being exploited to the point where it exceeds even the understanding of a human fucking mind. So realistically, you have that as a bit of an issue. So that's the data issue. That's besides the point. No, but what I'm saying specifically is the capability of the system itself, based on the architecture that it uses to do the thing that it's doing, is to for simpletons, let's say, think, even though it's not really thinking.
Yeah. By the way, fun thought. I think if you take LLM and keep training it on the data the LLM produces, and then take the new trained model and train it on that data, I think eventually you'll get to white noise because you're getting within the vicinity, but every iteration of the training degrades a bit of other output, tiny bit, but yeah. Either way, this is a fun conversation. I hate to leave it, but I gotta jump off. Adrian, thanks for having me up here. Blaze, Otto, good to see you guys. Everyone else,
Good to see you as well. It's kind of like when you are trying to remember a specific type of memory and you keep remembering it over and over and over and over and over again. At some point, your act of remembering this memory basically manipulates it a little bit each and every single time to the point that basically you will have somewhat forgotten what that memory actually was like. Like the truth gets muddled, effectively. That's kind of what that looks like. You can even make this, you can kind of make an experiment like this happen where you try to basically run an image through an AI, it's like a sharpening thing, and it basically just turns it into flat SVG type. Oh, sorry, that's annoying. Connected there.
Yeah. So, Adrian, all right, how about this? Where do you see the potential for improvement in LLMs, given that we seem to have run into somewhat of an architectural and a data wall of some sort? Like, where do you see this improving in the next few years, if at all? It feels like we've almost hit a sort of a Moore's Law end for AI improvement, in spite of whatever Sam Altman might have thought up while he was doing coke at a Silicon Valley party in Palo Alto or something. Like, what? I mean, like, seriously, what have we hit here? What does the future look like?
Case specific type of LLMs, perhaps that would be something that is more necessary. I think case specific is great because it kind of divides. There's less chaos in the system, so that's good. Another thing would be perhaps on the optimization level, you could kind of, the more compute would be beneficial, so you can effectively reprocess over and over again until you get a desirable output that's, almost perfect. That could help. But beyond that, you'd have to practically come up with a new architecture, and I have no idea what that's going to look like. Many have tried, and some are trying right now. I think there's like a research lab in Dubai that's trying, but it's kind of wasteful. It's not working as well as people would think, but it's a start. Beyond these
so when these fuckers are talking about like putting it on when these fuckers are putting it like they're saying we're going to put it next to a nuclear power plant. I mean, that's not really going to improve anything. Honestly.
No, yes, it is. You need all. Oh, yes, it is.
So I found.
Well, so explain to me, how do you feel like longitudinally, how is that going to improve the output
Yeah,
from an LLM? I mean, other than
you have more compute, you need more shit.
I found the interview. It was around 7 months ago when they released Llama
Are
3.
you sure it was 7? Oh yeah, that. Okay, 7 months ago. Okay, yeah, that's different because I'm talking about something that Jan LeCun brought out
Right.
a month or so ago.
Yeah.
So that's a little different.
Yeah, so he said in that one that they actually saw. So the limitations that they had put, so the limitations that a lot of researchers had put on LLMs beforehand, where they said that there is the scaling limit, they had actually found that to be false, and as they continued training, they actually saw that it would continue getting better.
So why is then the chief researcher saying the opposite is true?
I don't know.
They're just having diminishing returns. What the fuck's going on here then? Because something's not adding up.
Yeah, something. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, so 7 months ago they released 7. Was it 70D or was it?
7 months ago was like a way different story. People still believe that the AGI is going to come out in like the next 2 years or something like that. I think that has vastly changed.
Right. What exactly did they release? They released like a, was it HP and 70D, right?
Not sure.
Anyway, the first 2 models, the first 2 models, I think maybe they saw that they hit limits around 4 or 5B, probably. Yeah, he was saying that we thought it would get more saturated. It's like we trained on around 15 trillion tokens. I guess our prediction going in was that it was going to asymptote more, but even by the end it will start learning, right? It's like we probably, I'm reading it directly, so he stutters a lot. We probably could have fed it more tokens and would have gotten it somewhat better. He notes that they were surprised that even after training on 15 trillion tokens, the model was still improving and hadn't plateaued as expected. But he did say that they had to make a trade-off between training to continue to see if it would continue improving, or and testing hypothesis for Llama 4. Let me find exactly where he says this in this interview, though.
So, Adrian, what you're saying is essentially more power means more compute. Fine, but the actual ability of the model to function is not going to be tremendously more, other than the speed of computation, which I guess implies you can get more and more data in and out. Fine, you can do more data points. You can handle much larger outputs, but that does not necessarily mean that it's going to be more accurate or more original in any way, because you can't really train it enough to make up for the marginal difference of computational power. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Something like that. Oh yeah, here. it was in November actually, where Jan LeCun literally said we are hitting a wall.
Did I lose you guys?
No, it's still there. Hang on, am I audible or am I not audible? Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we hear.
Fuck this Periscope shit. Yeah, no, I'm reading this. Yeah, seems to be this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So yeah, that's very interesting that the story has changed, and I wonder what the reasons for that are.
Yeah, they're hitting a limit for improvement. It's like you're trying to outlearn learning itself. It's not going to work. I wonder what other kind of limits we're going to find in the future as well.
What? What did you say?
Nothing. We were just kind of continuing the conversation.
I do want this.
I need to get my other phone. This fucking receiver is dog shit.
Yeah. So I found exactly what I found exactly what on the podcast
Yeah. And that happened when exactly?
7 months ago.
Yeah, but here's the problem. In November, he stated that we're hitting a wall.
What was his exact phrasing?
That.
Can you
Really turns out this is exactly like. Let me see if I can find the exact.
Because I want to see exactly what he's talking about. They're hitting a wall on. Because if it's like a wall on like the information, the amount of data they have, that's kind of different.
I mean, I have somewhat conspiratorial thoughts about the reasons why ChatGPT has gotten worse, and the reason why the limitations on AI technology have become much more apparent in recent times. But it's all conjecture.
Apparently, the CEO of Claude, went on, not Claude, Anthropic, went on, what's it called, Lex Friedman, and he said that he doesn't believe that the AI companies are, like specifically putting worse models in after like they have first released it, because he literally said it would be way too expensive to do that because they would need to train a model to train a worse model and that would just be pretty expensive, so they would have to train one that's like still good enough to get a pass, and so he said he doesn't really think it's practical for companies to actually do that. It would turn out to be more expensive. Yeah, so do you want me to play like the part where Mark Zuckerberg kind of talks about it?
Not necessarily. I mean, we kind of have that now.
What do you mean, kind of have that now?
No, we settled it. I mean, you quoted the exact.
Yeah, but he says a lot more.
All right, sure.
Compute required to training is probably much higher than most other companies that are doing this stuff, just because of the sheer volume of the community that we're serving.
Yeah, that was really interesting in the material they shared with me before, that you trained it on more data than is compute optimal just for training, because the inference is such a big deal for you guys and also for the community that it makes sense to just have this thing have trillions of tokens in there.
Yeah. Although one of the interesting things about it that we saw even with the 70 billion is we thought it would get more saturated at it's like we're trading on around 15 trillion tokens.
Yeah.
I guess our prediction going in was that it was going to asymptote more, but even by the end, it was still learning, right? It's like we probably could have fed it more tokens and it would have gotten somewhat better. But I mean, at some point, you're running a company, you need to do these meta reasoning questions of like, all right, how do I want to spend our GPUs on like training this 70 billion model further? Do we want to kind of get on with it so we can start testing hypotheses for Llama 4? So we kind of needed to make that call, and I think we got it. I think we got to a reasonable balance for this version of the 70 billion. There'll be others in the future where the 70 billion multimodal one that'll come over the next period. But yeah, I mean that was fascinating that you could just that it's the architectures at this point can just take so much data.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what does this imply about future models? You mentioned that.
So basically, he reports that it just can take data and seems to continue improving.
Then what the fuck was he talking about?
Consider the source, though, I have to say.
No. I wouldn't discount Zuckerberg as well. I wouldn't discount that.
I mean, I think AI has gotten worse over time, and
Really?
I don't know why.
Have you used Claude?
Claude is
Not AI in general. Not AI in general. I think that's a very important distinction to make. Not AI in general. Others have been improving. I don't know what's going on at OpenAI, but they're trying to figure something out, and it's still working.
I would say leaders in the industry. I would.
Who are leaders in the industry? Because for like 7 months it's been Claude.
Claude is definitely a lot bigger. I didn't know. I haven't been tracking usage statistics, so I didn't realize that Claude was number one.
No, not in terms of users. Claude is not number one in terms of users, but in terms of quality, yes.
I see.
In fact, Google and Amazon just invested billions of dollars more into Anthropic because their quality is by far the best.
Yeah, but
Like it's not even close at the moment.
it appears that there are certain industry leaders that have regressed in significant ways.
Yeah, but Google and Google and OpenAI, that's what you expect from them.
Fair. And Facebook, same.
How has Facebook progressed?
Well,
They released like an open weight model. They haven't really done anything with it. You can literally just download it on your computer and run it yourself.
well, they weren't running into limits months ago, and now they are. So
I don't know. I don't know what exactly. I haven't seen this Jan LeCun post, so I don't know exactly what limits he's talking about. Right. So is he talking about the fact that they don't have enough data, or is he talking about the fact that they're hitting the wall, and as you train it more, it has a diminishing return, or it stops having a return. So I don't know what wall he's talking about. He could have been just talking about the fact that they're hitting a wall on data because they've consumed everything on the internet.
yeah, I mean that would make sense to me.
Yeah.
You don't really know without more context. But assuming that Adrian's previous assumption was correct, that would mean that they either found a limit that they weren't previously finding, or that the technology has changed to impose limits that did not previously exist.
Either way, though, it seems like what they were saying was what Mark was saying was that they used to like the people in the industry said that there was this limit, and they went past the limit, and they saw that there were still gigantic improvements after that. So did they find out that the limits that were there previously were complete bullshit? But there's actually a new limit? I don't know.
Well, I think OpenAI, I don't know if it's an insider causing problems or what they've got going on, but there's some kind of capture that's happened over there.
Basically, OpenAI got semi-bought out by Microsoft. And they rely on Microsoft to be their sugar daddy. And Microsoft appointed a D-Cell as the head of their AI division. And that's kind of what you need to know.
Could you explain the lingo you just used? Oh, D-cell decelerationist?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, that explains a lot. but you got to wonder why put a decelerationist in charge of developing an AI product.
I have no idea.
Well, who has the most to gain from laggard AI development?
Regulatory capture, maybe.
I mean, regulatory capture is when an industry is able to capture regulators through things like lobbying, or offering jobs to insiders who are leaving the regulator, that sort of thing. I mean,
not necessarily. Regulatory capture can literally be just lobbying the government to pass rules that benefit the company and punish the competition.
Yeah, but I would imagine that big tech actually has a fair amount to lose if tools that make tech development way, way easier and lower the burden to entry for a lot of people become widespread and readily available for cheap.
Yeah, so that's why they're decelerationist. They want this to be proprietary so they can fully control it. What the fuck is this? The fuck?
So I guess maybe I'm wondering if the reasons that AGI is so much further out than it used to be are entirely limitations of the technology or whether it's more limitations of people.
Hold on.
So while we're filling space, I'd like to go back to Super Mario 64 for a second because I think it's the perfect capstone to the point I was trying to make there. The reason why, or one of the reasons why that game appeals to people so much is that the design of the characters and the NPCs in that game is so well-rounded. Like if you look at the principles of design, rounded designs evoke joy in people. And Nintendo is especially good at this, creating like physically like rounded characters. And I think they capture a lot of the nostalgia and they're able to maintain it for that specific reason.
Yeah, it's a great example. It's a great game, Super Mario 64. I think like the limitations of the older hardware is kind of what gives a lot of these retro games their charm. Like considering, nowadays you're really unlimited with a lot of the stuff you have with your memory and stuff like that.
You know what the greatest achievement of the software industry is?
What's that?
Undoing the years of work that have taken to make computers leaps faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here's a fucking web browser. Let it consume 3 trillion fucking gigabytes for no reason.
I know it's annoying, dude.
Here's a game. Let's make it take 700 fucking gigabytes to download.
I miss the efficiency of the older games, yeah.
So what you were advised about limitations, I think one of my favorite sayings in work and in life is that limitations foster creativity.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for old gaming. Like I feel like the limitations they were working with, they had to innovate a lot more to create experiences that were engaging.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep. Wish they brought that back today.
Yeah, I hate how games these days hand everything to you on a silver platter. Like, where are the limitations that inspire my own creativity? Like, I remember in Diablo, like, experimenting and trying to find the rune words before they were, like, readily and widely available on the internet.
Yeah.
And you were risking everything, right? You were like, I'm going to throw this Hyrule and just to see on the off chance it does something. Because you were just being brave. And
Exactly.
there's
Part
no
of the magic.
reward element like that in modern gaming. Unless you're, like, gambling on loot boxes for, $30,000 knives.
That's not gaming.
So another thing I want to talk about is Midjourney, because you guys brought up how Midjourney has become such an effective image generator, and I think one of the reasons for that is they curated a very sophisticated user base for themselves by the way they launched their product. So in order to use Midjourney initially, especially for free, you had to join their Discord server and like start using it. And what that did, at least for me, was it caused me to see a lot of other people using Midjourney at the same time. And so I got to see how they were prompting and what prompts were working better or worse for them. And I got to learn things that worked well for me. And what a sophisticated user base like that does is it gives you really sophisticated feedback that lets you improve your platform a lot faster, and give people a lot better.
I think something that's kind of underestimated as well is the fact that Midjourney generates 4 images for you, and you get to pick one of these 4, and based on that, they automatically know which images out of the ones were the best.
Yeah, so they get to collect data on that the whole time and improve just with each image or each set of images that they're sending you.
Yes.
And you have to pick one you like in order to see it full size.
The technology is quite interesting to me. It's when I first learned about how the image generators worked, I was like, damn. So basically, what they do is they take like an image and they basically turn it into noise, and they basically learn how to take an image and turn it into noise, and then what happens is they basically train it using this noise, and they just do it in reverse. They do it in reverse whenever they're generating images. They generate like they make like a noise, and then they do like a reverse to generate an image.
AI is not conscious. It is an echo of consciousness.
Lick my fucking balls.
I love 300 people to say anything to, and that's what comes out.
Yeah, I just remembered when Adrian said that to the guy.
Yeah, that was so good. That was great. Dude, the whole fucking neighborhood heard that one. It was worth it.
I am sorry, neighbors, but it was worth it.
Yes.
Everybody got real quiet.
Most people left.
I'm just sitting here.
I am trying to beat Vampire Survivors.
Adrian, what are you working on?
Why? Why do you ask?
Because something's keeping you busy.
True. is a correct assessment. Accurate assessment, rather.
Sorry, didn't mean to pry.
Dude, the way you were asking me, like, is something keeping you busy, Adrian?
Might play some chess or something.
Well,
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
your show it, so I was like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm trying to think about a little something here. It's trying to come up with a good caption for a meme.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
It's actually something, a lot of the times, the outcome looks very simple, looks very basic. But what goes behind it is really not. So sometimes off the cuff is really good, but like off the cuff only happens because you're inundated with some sort of context constantly. That eventually leads you towards a specific decision, and then you have this output, which is perfect, right? So the off-the-cuff stuff sounds like, oh, you just come up with it and you discard it, but realistically, it's just something that is some sort of problem or some sort of situation that inundates your existence constantly, and then eventually you come to a conclusion in regards to it, and that's then the off-the-cuff thing, which is so good. So technically speaking, you have to kind of apply that to some stuff as well if you wanted to make it appear as if it was off-the-cuff, which it also kind of is. So you have like something in mind, you have to transform it into something that actually scales. And that's what I'm doing here. So the caption is going to look butt fucking simple, but realistically speaking, I'm making a bit of fucked up references here, of course, so it sticks in your mind. But realistically speaking, it will work. It'll get the desired result. Damn. Oh. Excuse me. Oh, I'm so much I found this. The fact that I can do that is insane.
Accurate.
Speaking of off the cuff, I went to go check how that meme you tweeted out the other day went, and I thought I was gonna do pretty well compared to your recent post, but you got retweeted by Elon, so shit.
Yeah. Which one? Reposted, by the way.
Oh, yes. Still working on that vocab.
Yeah, it's like ingrained into my brain, so it's probably not going to come out.
It's been very easy for me to declimatize. I'm actually very adaptive. So literally the moment where the change happened, I said, okay, everything here is called a post on X. Fine, we can do this. And then I basically became the fucking grammar Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, you hang out long enough, you'll start saying it the right way.
No, it just works. I just literally decided that day, okay, fuck it. You know what? Instantly change. And I'm very good at this kind of shit. I basically say things sometimes in such a way as if they'd always been the way that they are now. It's like gaslighting, but you gaslight yourself.
Well, yeah, that's how neuroplasticity works.
Remember, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to stand in the room. I want you to feel the surroundings. And I want you to realize one thing. This room has always been an orange. There you go.
Great.
Remarkable.
What's weird is that
Stuck in my brain now.
as soon as I closed my eyes there, because I went with it, I felt like I was inside something round.
That's what I'm fucking saying. Do you see what I just did there?
You
Oh, man.
fucked with
Mind control is not that hard. That's all I'm gonna say. So if you reverse engineered it and applied it to yourself, well, there you go. Now you learn everything. You adapt faster. It's like the scene from Adventure Time where there's like the fucking skeleton bro's like, do you want my magical powers? But it's like without the caveats. Yeah. Did you hear the water?
No.
Good.
Did you hear the ligma?
No, but that sound that you heard in the background, that was definitely my balls.
Elegance. We got the king of elegance here.
Yeah, exactly. I could turn that into something really gay, but I'm not gonna.
Adrian's got the telltale balls over there.
Uh-huh. Hey, remember that time when I said I should put my balls on the blockchain?
Yeah. I remember
I'm
that.
actually serious. Now, it's not what you think it is. Don't be like that. I generated these really super smooth, shiny balls, these beautiful spherical
Beers.
golden
Yeah.
balls. And I wanted to put them on the blockchain. I said, hey, and I told somebody this off the cuff. Because some people, they just don't listen, right? And so I was explaining it, and then that's when the moment I started talking about the actual balls themselves, that's when their brain turns on, because neuron activation, monkey meme type. So I'm sitting here, I'm explaining this, right? I'm doing a whole bunch of things. Then I mention it. Then his brain activates. I say the word "my balls" instantly. Neuron activation, monkey mode, right? Neuron activation. Bro pays attention, and I say, "I'm gonna send these balls to your wallet." Like, well, I don't know what the legal implications are of sending your own bullets to someone's wallet, but sure. I'm like, it's not like that, you fucking. I told him, I was like, making that explanation, I have to repeat it again. But yeah, it was basically some golden, super round spheres, balls effectively. And then I thought, hey, we could put these balls on the blockchain and send them to people.
When I was talking about principles of design and rounded shapes, I was thinking about your orbs, and yeah.
Do you see how that is like the world's worst slippery slope, right? Because the moment you said that right there, people got to be thinking about certain types of stuff that is not at all related to the bio. Like dude. The moment you said Adrian's orbs, people were thinking about a whole bunch of other things. That's for sure.
Exactly.
There was intent in the delivery.
Seriously, if I made a bunch of beautiful balls and somebody went to buy them, does it mean that they bought my orbs?
Technically, I think so.
Okay, so check this out. I own Jeff Bezos' orbs in one metaverse.
Which orbs? The simulated biological kind, or the orbs that he might have made at some point?
The Amazon spheres that he had built.
Okay. I thought you were referencing the fact that one day his dick pic got leaked. Do you remember that?
I remember
That happened.
hearing about it. I haven't seen the orbs myself.
Wow.
Or should I
Actually,
call them the
Jeff's. Well, it's well known that Jeff's phallus was the inspiration for the Blue Origin rocket, just like multiplied by an order of magnitude, of course.
Get it up.
Yeah, to the upscaling of that rocket there from Blue Origin, no wonder that ship went suborbital.
Exactly.
Clearly designed effort.
That shit, literally, that fucking rocket, if you wanted to put that rocket next to the fully stacked Starship rocket, that thing looks like me when I'm not hard. Not even fucking kidding. Needless to say, that rocket is not fully stacked, but definitely I am fully stacked whenever I see Starship go up.
And Starship can go to
Full
Uranus. So fuck you, Bezos.
Well, the problem with that is actually that you kind of tend to aim in a specific direction, but the problem usually is with Monkey Brain is that we kind of end up at the anus for no reasons, like at Uranus. We always usually end up there. I have no idea why we always end up at Uranus. We kind of tend to orbit around that idea, but it's really not working out well.
I think there's clearly life inside the cracks of Uranus. We just have to find out. Starship will get there.
The problem actually is the life. This is also why we don't want to be in Uranus.
I've heard it's very hot and wet in there.
Yeah, that's the other part, but you don't want to be near the Uranus part. You want to specifically explore one of its moons, and it's very difficult to kind of get in on the moons, but it's definitely easier to get inside Uranus.
You just have to turn on the boosters and go. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, but man, you don't want to force up that situation. That's for sure. There's going to be a lot of damage.
Well, if you're Bezos, you just kind of like, push towards the outer edge and then end up falling back to Earth, honestly.
I mean, look at who he's with. I don't think it matters anymore.
Wow.
What have we just done?
So unhinged right now. I love it.
So the big takeaway from this conversation is Bezos's rocket looks like a flaccid dick.
Pretty much. So.
Yes.
Oh my god, your piece of art looks so amazing. I gotta say, if we wanted to talk about it in rockets, I'm fully stacked right now.
Fully stacked.
That's the thing. Henceforth, I'm going to talk about being at full mast in terms of being fully stacked. My rocket is fully stacked. The only problem is the thrust comes out the other end. Oh no, sorry, that's the delivery system. My bad.
I mean, I think Elon also built a machine that could
Thrust vector control.
In thrust we trust, remember?
Oh yeah.
Used to remember, I don't know if any one of you has ever watched American Dad before, but that's a cartoon where basically one of the characters is, of course it's a family, right? And there's the titular dad and, the wife. It's a very traditionalist type of setup, of course, and then Steve is the more, somewhat progressive in a sense, right? He's a relatively more nerdy kid, and, one of the things he did in fact do is whenever he wanted to exchange favors with his friends, he did it via these things he called Steve bucks, effectively, right? So he wanted to create his own fiat currency, which he did, and one of the things on that fiat currency was that there was a misprint on it, and instead of "In Steve we trust," on it was written "In Steve we thrust."
That's funny.
Yeah, something like that. Pretty decent, I would say. Pretty fucking decent. Back to the fucking meme.
It's too bad for Bezos. All the shit for his rocket's going to be 60% more expensive on January 20th. Motherfucker.
I mean, I think for Bezos, it's only a matter of time before shit gets in his way anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, like, who do you think was behind shorting retail to shit during the pandemic? The ones with the most to gain. Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny, though.
By the way, Adrian, what the fuck happened to you keeping the space short?
Well, that ship sailed the moment we started to make all the Obama jokes happen. I kind of went off script ever since then. Then we had a good conversation about geopolitics and the way that most geopolitics maxis won't understand because their heads are so far up their ass they can't tell where they end or begin. Spoken to many people like that. There's a lot of them out there. I mean, literally, that's what it is. It's a fucking negative feedback loop. It's a bunch of people that say that they're not like legacy media, ingesting legacy media shit, talking about the legacy media shit from the legacy media perspective, and then ingesting more of it, believing that to be their reality to the point that every single take that fucking comes out of them is basically already them being brainwashed and they don't even realize it, which makes them the ultimate fucking NPC. It's the independent thinkers. The self-proclaimed. There's an independent thinker, and then there's the self-proclaimed independent thinker. For instance, I myself, most likely, actually, I don't think I've ever done this. I probably would not stand in the room and say I'm an independent thinker because that doesn't really make that much sense to do. Why would you do that? It should be self-evident. Like, say, for instance, when somebody says, oh, you're biased because your thoughts are being influenced, if you then respond with, oh, but I'm an independent thinker, that cannot be, you'd be like, oh, really? How am I biased? Ask that question instead. That means you're an independent thinker, perhaps. But then independent thinker, what does that even fucking mean? I mean, you think for yourself, do you not? You have to then state that you think for yourself, whether that your thoughts are somebody else's. Because if you are really an independent thinker, it would be self-evident to you as well, wouldn't it? So why do you have to state it?
I mean, I think for the same reason people say other self-serving things.
Yes, Neo, yes. I don't know why I want to keep saying that. I just find it's funny to say.
I like it.
Like whenever Auda does something and then something fucks up, it's like, are you really doing this? Yes, Neo, yes.
Wait, what am I doing where something fucks up?
Don't worry about it.
What do you mean don't worry about it? I am worried about it.
No, you tell me the other thing that I was not supposed to worry about it. We'll trade the info. We'll meet halfway. Yeah, that's how it is. Yo mama's so fat she was overthrown by a militia group, and now she's known as the Republic of Yo Mama. Oh my god. Would that militia group happen to be a set of people that assembled in a room as a result of an invitation to produce video content for OnlyFans?
Oh my god. Instead of the Your Mama jokes, we should talk about Uranus.
Uranus jokes. It's not Uranus anymore. It's my anus now. Your part of this has sailed a long time ago. We're in the my territory now. Welcome.
Uranus is no longer yours.
Uranus is no longer your property. Hippity hoppity, your body's not my property. It's important like that.
Wow.
Fucking.
Why did Mars turn permanently red? Because it saw Uranus. Oh, fucking
Nick Fuentes, your body, my choice.
That is so crazy, man. I can't believe he fucking said that shit. He's such a douchebag. That meme started everywhere. And then the women get in it as well.
Yeah.
Then you have the supposedly trads that then post in a non-traditionalist way. I can feel the irony. Heck, it is not even irony anymore. It is hypocrisy. I can sense the hypocrisy. I can feel it.
Reject tradition, go back to monkey.
I was in a space after the Biden-Trump debate, and Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks was speaking, and I was on the speaker panel. And then Cenk was speaking, and then Nick Fuentes joined the speaker panel. I don't know why they let him in, but they let him in. And Cenk was like, okay, I gotta go. And then he just took off. And then Fuentes got up there, he's like, that asshole, he's so scared of me. I was like, well, who wants to be on a speaker panel with fucking Nick Fuentes? You know?
I mean, I've been there.
Adrian's been there.
I've been there.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, well, I mean, Adrian's
It was a really risky decision.
Guy is kind of a douche. I mean, yeah, Adrian's, it's like geopolitical impact here, but like, I mean, Adrian's like a total douche. I mean, like, seriously, it's like the guy is a laugh.
His position makes no sense to me. He's like only like Catholics should be allowed to be president. Or what the fuck?
He's
Like,
That's why I said, like, okay, we
himself.
can pick on that bone. Yeah. Like, see, here was the thing, right?
Not even
So we
like
went
the
in there.
founding fathers.
There you go ahead, explain that context first.
Yeah, none of the founding fathers were Catholic, so I'm like,
It's kind of strange, yeah. So basically, I went in there. So I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to shoot my shot because he was saying a lot of bullshit. And I thought, hey, you know what would be really interesting? What if I basically told this dude to chill the fuck out? So I went in there, basically with that premise, and I told him, hey, can you not post as much bullshit in the way that you've done before? Then you're going to stay around for probably a little bit longer while. Because look, at this point, you can always blame some other people for your decisions, but at the end of the day, it is your decisions that lead to a specific type of outcome. And if you're going to blatantly harass people for no fucking reason at all, then the outcome is going to be you getting removed from the public sphere. That is how it kind of works, right? So maybe you could, not do that so much, which kind of was interpreted as a very strange thing for me to do, and the massive posts came out about like, oh my god, he's telling people. I'm like, my dude, what do you want? What exactly would be the opposite of that? Would you want me to tell him to be more worse, so he disappeared or something? Like, well, what is it that you wanted me to do? What would you have done? Oh yeah, that's right, you didn't do shit. I did. You didn't. But anyways, besides the point, right? So after we went past that, we kind of wanted to have a discussion about something, and I wasn't going to have a discussion with him regarding the other stuff that he believes in, because that's just absolutely fucking insane. But we did get to the point where we could have a discussion about religion, right? And the values and such that come with it, and why that doesn't really make sense. The idea that, say only Catholics should be in charge of the country. I was like, okay, we could probably pick the bones a little bit here. And then it's kind of funny because then Penny came in, everybody else came in as well. He was kind of offended. You wanted to go after him. And I was like, dude, I understand this, but I really don't want to do that. And so I kind of tried to act as a moderator between the two, because then Nick started to troll him, and I was like, no. So yeah, that was an adventurous space for sure. Good stuff to talk about, realistically, good stuff to talk about. Even if it doesn't make sense half the time, it was still fun to me. I think it was real fucking entertaining, in my opinion.
When was that, AD, that you encountered Fuentes? When was that?
I don't know. Fucking a couple of months ago.
Yeah, he's really a piece of work, because he's like, I know guys here in Texas. I don't know if you're aware of this, but like a bunch of people I know here in Texas, like Nick Fuentes, I think unintentionally for him, created like an international firestorm around like the Republican Party of Texas. Like he had come to a meeting in the offices of this guy named Jonathan Stickland, who used to be a state representative from Fort Worth area, and apparently met with Jonathan and some other people associated with some political action committees. And like the GOP chairman was a guy named Matt Rinaldi. He was kind of in the vicinity, but he wasn't in the meeting necessarily. And so Fuentes was like in this meeting with these guys, and it created like this huge firestorm. And like all these people lost their jobs, and like all these PACs shut down, because Fuentes was just like in the building with them. And it was reported by the like Texas media. It was like crazy. Like very significant actually, because these were organizations that were doing a lot. They were spending tens of millions of dollars. And overnight they basically shut down within a few weeks, basically. Because Fuentes was just seen as in a meeting with them. Like, he's a lightning rod, that guy. So like when I see him in a space, which is not infrequently, I mean, he's in a number of these spaces, it's kind of like, I hesitate a little bit, because I know a lot of these people. I know what happened to some of the people in Texas that like were just seen in a room with the guy, but it's like a little different. He has the right to free speech as anybody else, but my gosh, he says some stupid shit, really stupid shit. It's just kind of funny that you were in a space with him, because I think like, if X is going to be a free platform.
I wanted to test myself. I wanted to see what could happen, how crazy, because, dude, you can always play it safe and surround yourself with stuff that's safe and kind of like live in your own bubble, have weird back channel agreements with people to bring you up and then shape questions in your favor so that you don't have to expose your politics, you fucking pussy. No, I just went up there and I said, we're going to try something that is completely unhinged, something completely out of left field. We're not going to do anything political whatsoever, which is also funny because I still remember the one thing that one of the producers from Alex Jones's show told me. He said,
I don't think I've ever met anyone who is able to be apolitical in an Alex Jones space. That's remarkable to me because, like, okay, that's actually kind of good. As a person who's been around for a very long time, has seen a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I've been very apolitical. So I did the exact same shit there. You know, you go there and you have you kind of expose yourself to the person who is what a lot of people would, I think, even rightfully so, label as being extreme. I will talk to anyone who's extreme. Realistically, I speak to some people who are extreme fucking far right and extreme fucking far left. It doesn't matter to me. I will have a conversation because as long as you're still a human here bound in flesh on earth, I will want to talk to you to understand what the fuck is going on in that brain of yours. Right? I mean, shouldn't we?
I agree with you, and that's what the problem is that our country has moved so far away from that. But I agree with you. I think that it's important to understand where other people are coming from. And gosh, I can't remember the name of the guy. There was a guy who was like a black guy who made a point of like befriending Klan leaders or something like that. There was like a documentary about this guy. I can't remember his name. It was really interesting. It was really interesting. I watched this documentary, and this guy was like, he's like a black guy. He was like, I think, a former jazz singer or something. And he like made this point of going out and befriending like Klansmen.
I know who that is. Daryl Davis.
Yeah, Daryl Davis. Thank you.
Daryl Davis, that guy did something incredible. I think that guy inspired me a lot as well. I fucking love that dude. He's incredible. He's one of those people where I say, this is an incredible human being because he did something that is just completely out of left field. Nobody would consider it. It's like, hey, I'm a black guy. Let's go and fucking see if we can infiltrate the white supremacists by not infiltrating them. And at the end, even got like one of the Klan leaders to resign effectively because he had more respect as a white dude for this dude for what he termed a black term. It is. I can't say it. But he had more respect for him than he did for the other people in that clan, which is fucking remarkable because he proved something really essential that I don't think anyone else with argumentation could have proved otherwise. He proved that this dude could be, that they can be equals. He proved that to everyone, even the person who would have otherwise considered that not to be a case.
He gave Daryl his like clan robes, right? He gave him like his like clan robes and his like hood and stuff.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
Daryl had that. It was freaking crazy. No, that was crazy to me.
Yeah. Out of everything that I've seen people do to try and like show that there is equality with people, nothing will ever be as cool as what that guy did. I think that was.
I'm glad you've seen that. I'm glad you've seen that, AD. I mean, I think that's really that kind of stuff is fascinating to me. Like there was a book I read when I was a kid. I don't know if you ever read this book. It's called Black Like Me. It was a book I read. Yeah, it was a book about this like journalist in New Orleans who like, I don't know, he took these weird pills that like turned his skin black. He's a black.
Are you sure that's real? Are you sure that's real? You're gonna have to believe. I don't know if that's real.
No, man, I don't know. That's the book, man. I mean, that's the book. I mean, I don't know, but like, there's a picture of the guy in there. He's clearly a white guy that took like it's some kind of a melanin thing, but like it's a really, really well-known book. But like, it's called Black Like Me. I mean, you should look it up. But it's like, I'm always fascinated by people that like make the conversation happen, and they create a dialogue where there isn't. Like, I mean, so much of my career in local government was going into like the worst ghettos in America to study local policy and like meeting with people who are totally different politically from me. They have no interest in any of the bullshit that we're talking about. But it's just like when you go out and you talk to people, you can have an incredible conversation with them. You can understand where they're coming from. But no, Daryl Davis is like, but the problem with a guy like Nick Fuentes that I have to like bring back on track is just like, I think Nick Fuentes, like, he's not really willing, I don't think, to understand necessarily the other side. At least I don't perceive that from him.
I think he understands the other side quite well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to roast him as effectively as he does. I disagree with that. I think he's very calculated what he wants to generate, and he's very good at exactly that. Otherwise, the show would have been gone a long time ago. So I'd say he's really good at exactly this. He's really good at understanding the other side, and I think a lot of what he does seems to be just dramatized for the hell of it. Because at some point, you have to consider, imagine if you do a live show like the way that he does, you just become unhinged in many different ways. And in his case, I suppose it comes through in disparaging other people, I suppose, right? I kind of do something in a similar way, but I criticize a lack of principles in comparison to principles that I might have as well, even though I say a lot of shit. So this is the thing that you wouldn't be able to do this properly if you didn't understand the other side. I'm a more diplomatic individual, although I will stand my ground. I know exactly where my ground is, and I will stand on that ground and make sure that that ground is not taken. That is simply how it works out, right? This is what you're supposed to do. And yeah, I mean, that's besides the point. So it's not somebody, you can't really compare somebody like Daryl Davis, what he did, with anything that anyone, actually most anyone in this position could have done today. I think a lot of people these days are kind of lazy and uninspiring. There's only a very few that remain. And I mean, look at historians as well. The historians today, if you listen to them, it's fucking stupid. They don't know half the shit that they're talking about is even real. They're not open for criticism on certain things. They act like those super self-absorbed fucking scientists who, upon discovering the slightest amount of resistance to their assessment of the world, crumble instantly like a piece of paper. That is horrible. This is scary. That has got to be a shitty reality to live in, because you're constantly on the edge of your existence being somehow undone, because your entire identity revolves not around your personality, which you've discarded, but some sort of fact that you believe is the absolute fact, being real and being provable. It's insane.
Well, most of the history, I think now. I'm sorry, Ad, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It reminds me of the fucking historians. The whole 1619 project is like complete bullshit. And so many historians treat that shit as fact. And it's just taught in universities.
Yeah. There's actually one historian that I really like. It's not really a historian, but his name, Thomas Sowell. He's fucking great. There's two people that I picked that wildly. No, that's it. Listen. If there's two people that I could pick that have inspired who I am as a person and how I approach people, more inspiring. Because if you kind of know what they know and you kind of learn what they are all about, you are better equipped. Maybe you need a different type of help, of course, and then that does not apply to you. But to me, that is something that I felt was very fundamental in shaping who it is that I am. Especially when it comes to history and the way that things are. Thomas Sowell himself has had a very large impact. He's